He's a former executive of Embraer, and he told me one day, drones will be the apps of the physical world. The smartphone was just a phone for calls and texting and some photos, but the apps turn it into something else.
Right.
It's a way of life now. And drones will have that. Once we have BVLOS and drones will be able to fly, you will see a change in the way we do things. We will see thousands of trucks, diesel trucks, disappearing from our roads. We'll see inspections that are periodically happening without human intervention. We'll see changes that are unimaginably right now.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Hangar, where we have exclusive conversations with leaders in the private aviation industry. I'm your host, Dagan Davis, and today our guest is Juan B. Plaza. He is the CEO of Plaza Aerospace Corp. Juan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Dagan. Thank you for the invitation. I'm honored.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Very excited to get into this one. And so, really, what we want to know is right off the bat, if people are not familiar with Plaza Aerospace, what do you guys do?
Plaza Aerospace is a small consulting firm that I founded in 2015 after 26 years with corporate America in the area of sales. I worked for Autodesk and Trimble Navigation, um, and first as a sales manager, then as a sales director, specifically selling hardware and software to do with my profession. I'm a geodetic engineer, geodesist. So one of the reasons I went into geodesy is because we use planes to take the photographs to make the maps. So I said, oh, planes involved, that's me. So Autodesk and Trimble Navigation are big players in the geospatial arena. And so everybody's familiar with AutoCAD, probably. And so my years with Autodesk, I sold software related to geospatial. And then with Trimble Navigation, I specialize in hardware, geospatial hardware, transit, scanners. And in my catalog of products, there was a drone. It was 2013. I was a private pilot, and I had a Cirrus, an SR-20, but it was all private. And I saw a drone, and I told everybody, you cannot do photogrammetry with that toy. And they laugh at me, and they prove to me that yes, you can do photogrammetry with a toy. My previous experience with photogrammetry was on a Learjet, a 25 Charlie, that was very loud. And I said, wow, if drones can do that for my profession, imagine what they can do for other professions. Anyway, I left Trimble in 2015 and I said, this is the future of aviation. And I created a company that doesn't make any difference between, we don't see them different, uncrewed aviation and crewed aviation. We help people finding pilots for a CJ3 to go to Michigan, or what kind of platform do you need to spray your field? So, we do both. Um, that is on the technical side. On the business side, those 26 years with corporate America left me with a very rich field of distributors in Latin America, from Mexico to Argentina. These companies are constantly looking for new services and products to promote. So with that network, we offer companies in the US and Europe, we can help them penetrate the Latin American market. And don't forget, the skies over Latin America are way less crowded than here.
Hmm.
And the regulator is way less busy than here. So doing business in Latin America is probably one of the fastest ways to create revenue for a drone company. Because you can sit down with the regulator very easily, come up with a plan, a business plan, get approval, do some tests, and start working. One perfect example is a company that came up with a B2B business model for drones, which is from hospitals to wholesale pharmacies. All right.
Okay.
There's a limited number of hospital and a limited number of wholesale pharmacies in a city in Latin America. So this company registered officially the corridors between those buildings. Okay. So they created a network of approved corridors that are now, they appear in the official charts, aeronautical charts of the country. And those corridors, so the hospital issues, they order some
The
materials, like
prescription.
let's say a COVID test or syringes or you name it, right? And the pharmacy delivers via drone using those corridors. They don't have to ask anybody. The corridors are already there. And that is a business model that is currently in place.
And where
Is
is
that
that?
feasible? Huh?
And where is that?
That's in the city of Bogota.
Okay, great.
So the the possibilities are huge. Yes, you have the language barrier, you have things, but one of the issues that I'm seeing with the industry, and I know that you're probably going to ask me this later, is that we have a very promising industry called the drone and air taxi. I call it uncrewed aviation. The problem is that we can only fly beyond, I mean, within visual range of the operator. Okay. That's part 107. It came out in the summer of 2016. So we're all living in the part 107 era. The example I would love to use is, imagine if I give you the internet, but only websites that are, 200 yards around your house. The use to you will be absolutely minimal, or
Yeah.
if not zero. So aviation, uncrewed aviation needs the BVLOS regulation, the Beyond Visual Line of Sight, BVLOS. And it's called Part 108 / Part 146. And this regulation will allow the drone industry to flourish. Amazon will be able to distribute. I mean, our lives will change very, very similarly to the ways it changed before, with the internet, with the PC, with the smartphone, because drones, I love this sentence. It's from a friend of mine, Andre Stein. He's a former executive of Embraer, and he told me one day, drones will be the apps of the physical world. And I loved it because the smartphone was just a phone for calls and texting and some photos, but the apps turn it into something else. It's a way of life now. And drones will have that. Once we have BVLOS and drones will be able to fly, you will see a change in the way we do things. We will see thousands of trucks, diesel trucks, disappearing from our roads. We'll see inspections that are periodically happening without human intervention. We'll see changes that are unimaginably right now. It's the equivalent right now, at 13 years after I saw my first drone, is the equivalent of 1916 after the Wright brothers, right? So imagine aviation in 1916, biplanes all made of wood and cotton covered. Imagine if you go there and show them an Airbus 380. They will simply not get it, right? No, no, don't show me that. It's impossible. That's exactly where we are right now. We are in 1916 in uncrewed aviation. The air
So
taxis and all the drones that you have seen out there, the Electras, the Joby, Archer, everything looks great right now, but it's the equivalent of 1916. We have no idea where this thing is going. The battery industry is failing us miserably because when you buy a drone and they tell you 25 minutes of flight time, that is ridiculous. There's very few practical applications. Air taxis that are fully electrical will not be able to do what they say they can do if it's only batteries with the chemistry of today. So what we do in Plaza Aerospace is bring people down to earth. If they say we want to add drones to our workflow, all right, let's talk about what your mission is. Let's see what's available out there. Let's see what the regulation allows you to do. Let's see what the FAA can give us waivers for. I mean, it's a fascinating process. And in the meantime, if you reach the conclusion that no, we'll continue with traditional aviation, then we can find you pilots. We can help you buy the plane. It's it's the future of aviation. And aviation will be one industry, pilot inside the cockpit or not. And and believe me, we're dealing here with a generational issue. And let me ask you a question. When was the last time you went to an elevator with an operator?
Long time.
Exactly. Now, do you think 120 years ago when the first elevators came out, people will go in without an operator? No. Are you
No,
not?
of course
I
not.
don't know how to handle the thing. I don't know. Exactly. 4 generations later, nobody goes into an operator. When you go to Dallas and change terminal, do you think somebody is conducting that train? I have news for you. Nobody is at the front. The front is full of passengers too. Okay, so we have trains and elevators. We already live in a world surrounded by autonomy. The fact that we still have cars and buses and planes that we need, oh, that's fine. But it's inevitable. It's coming. In 2 generations, people will go into pilotless planes. It's difficult for us to think about it. The same way that it's difficult for people in 1910 to go think about going into elevators without operators. It's a generational view. And I see our role in the industry as the bridge. We're not the enemy. I mean, it, we need to talk to each other.
And so, have you always been this forward thinking, even when you were working, in corporate America, or and is that one of the reasons why you wanted to, go into launching your own business?
Yes, I did my when I was in Autodesk, I was looking for a promotion from manager to director. And one of the things that they said is, you don't have an MBA. I said, oh, really? Okay, let's do it. So I went to FIU and they had an incredible program called the Executive MBA. And I did it. And Dagan, every class was an epiphany. Like I was in sales and I was a monster. Like I hated finance, legal, business, all these guys. I called them the business prevention department in public. And they absolutely hated me, right? I came from the enterprise side of sales. I sell to the board of directors, to the C level. I sit down with the CEO of a company and tell them why you need our product. Not because it has these features and functionality. No, it's going to save you money. It's going to do this. So when I get into Autodesk is, at least in the early 2000s, they sold boxes of AutoCAD very successfully. And one day I'm having this horrendous fight with management because I have this deal in Colombia, $2.5 million. And I'm so excited about the deal. And somebody from finance called me at my house confidentially and said, Juan, we make 2.5 million every 8 hours selling AutoCAD with no risk. You're pushing this company to do something that is not natural to us. And I saw the light. I was wrong, right? My sales style was in the wrong company. and I move on. But uh, it's a matter of style. When you know what you want, right? And for 26 years, selling hardware and software for geospatial was good, and I learned a lot. And but my MBA taught me one thing: I was not the right person for corporate America. So I after a few more years, I decided to go my own route. And I'm not saying is better. It's just different, right? Some people are made for corporate America. So some people thrive in that environment. The rat race and competing to each other and going up. You know, Manager and then director and senior director and then VP and then senior VP and that's not me. That's I focus too much on the task at hand and not enough on the political side of it. So I said, I might as well serve my customers, giving them what they want instead of trying to escalate a political ladder.
Yeah, I could agree with you on that. It just depends on what type of person you are and what you're looking for. And there's different people everywhere and different goals everywhere. So it just depends. But I could agree with you. I own my own business as well, and I
And
really like to.
when you're dealing with those people who enjoy the famous sentence, never fight with a pig. First, you're going to get dirty. Second, you might get hurt. And the third is the pig is enjoying it. So when you start fighting, trying to fight with those people who enjoy the political race, you're forcing yourself into their camp that they enjoy it. So leave them alone and go and do your own stuff on the side. And I said, now that I like aviation so much, instead of being like a sidekick, make it my life work, make it my last, you know, entrepreneur business uh, issue, my last um, professional endeavor. Let's call it that way. I want to spend the rest of my life seeing these two industries merge. Um, the regulation is playing a big part because technologically, I think we are already there. But given probably your audience, I would have to say that the FAA is working very, very hard to find a way to integrate these two aviation safely. Because the level of safety that we have acquired until the last accident in Washington, D.C. last year, there was not a multi fatality accident in the U.S. since 2009, like 15 years. Taken 15 years. These companies moved 10 billion people from one place to the next without a fatality. There was one fatality, but it was a blade of a turbine that killed someone sitting in a window. I mean, it was not an accident that was preventable. It was a mechanical issue. But so, how can we tell the FAA in the U.S., EASA in Europe, and all the other civil aviation authorities around the world? Yeah, let's throw thousands of drones at this thing and keep the same level of safety. Uh, I understand the skepticism and I respect that. But but right now the uncrewed aviation industry is, you know, trying to survive without BVLOS. And we're
Yeah, and I
gonna need
think I think in my opinion, I mean, I have a drone and I throw that up in the air, and obviously you need the permits and when you're close to cities or what have you, but when I'm putting up the drone, I'm getting all these alerts of a plane nearby or you can't go in this zone or things like that. So I do think they're doing it right, and they're working with these technology companies to make sure that they can really push it forward. I know these big companies like you were talking about are really trying to do like the deliveries and different things. So yes, you're right, 100%. It's coming. And it's nice to see that maybe the regulations right now are a little tight, but for good reason, for safety of everything that has already been there with the manned flights. So, yeah, I think it's going in the right direction, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Well, Juan, we're about halfway through, so I'm going to go ahead and cut to a quick commercial break, and then we will be right back.
Every trip begins with a choice. Spend hours navigating crowded airports, security lines, and delayed flights? Or take control of your schedule. With Triton Air, your aircraft is ready when you are. Arrive, board, and be on your way in minutes, not hours. Whether you're traveling for business or escaping for the weekend, Triton Air delivers a private aviation experience built entirely around you. Personalized service, unmatched convenience, and the freedom to fly where you want, when you want. Triton Air, private travel without compromise.
All right, and we're back to our episode of Beyond the Hangar. We're here with Juan B. Plaza. He is the CEO of Plaza Aerospace Corp. And so, Juan, I know we were talking in the first half mainly about your company and what you guys do. I'm really interested in just learning a little bit more about the aviation challenges that you're helping these organizations solve. Could you go into a little bit more detail on or examples for us?
Yes. One great example that also mixes the other big thing today, artificial intelligence, is the inspection of high voltage transmission lines. Okay, there are a lot of things that can happen that can go wrong in a transmission line. And remember, these things are thousands of miles long. They go through very unforgiving terrain. So, and they need to be inspected periodically. Um, and this has been done traditionally from the ground in the areas where it's feasible, but mostly from helicopters. Um, as you can imagine, that is a very expensive proposition. So drones are absolutely perfect for this. First, they're going to be flying way away from any airport or airplanes or, I mean, near those conductors, electric conductors, there's nothing because it's very dangerous. So drones are perfect for this. Um, but how? How are we going to do it? Because the way the inspection work on the helicopter, you have someone actually looking at the conductor and the tower and taking notes and taking conclusions. And more recently, there's been some sensors. Uh, but the drone, you can actually have two or three different sensors. We call sensors, the camera, thermal, um, ultraviolet. You can have four different sensors looking at exactly the same. You can fly really fast because you're taking images, and then you can, load that to give that to the inspectors, and they can do their job in the office. But the problem is that now you have created something very efficient in the field, and what you have done is move the bottleneck from the field to the office, because suddenly you have 17 terabytes of photographs and not enough inspectors to look at them. So this company in Chile, um, called Automap, came up with a AI model to go through the photographs, uh, and find out the um, the errors, the breaks. But the problem is that there's 40 different things that can happen. Like you have bird poop on the conductor is one. Like broken thread is another one. Like you have 40, and the AI model needs to be educated on those 40. Of course, you educate first on the first ones, the most important, broken thread, missing uh, isolators. I mean, but you need thousands of photographs to use machine learning to teach the AI model. So it starts with aviation, right? It starts with your customer needs to save money with the helicopter. Yeah, but by fixing his or her problem with the helicopter, you now created problem somewhere else. So one of the challenges of this industry is that in traditional aviation, the problems, we had already 120 years of the same problem. I need to go from A to B. All right, we'll take you. I need to take this cargo from A to B. Okay, we'll do it. I need to. So we have 120 years of experience solving direct problems without causing other problems. Uncrewed aviation comes to our lives, solving something and then creating a different problem down the line, and helping them select a drone to take the photograph does not help them at all. It's helping them with the next step. Moving the bottleneck to the office, you didn't do them a favor. See what I mean? I mean, it's more complex than just fixing one problem. Uh, it's fixing that problem and staying with the customer to see if that fixes the end. The end game is, it has to be your goal. Your company needs
The
to consulting to help them fix the problem, not change a helicopter for something cheap. No, that is not the solution. That is not what a consultant does. What we do is to help them from A to Z. Did it fix the problem? No, now I have 13 technicians and 17 terabytes of so let's move on to the next one, and let's move on to the next one, and so on. So that's a perfect example.
Yeah, that is it. It is a perfect example because it also told us that you are from A to Z, like you said. You start with yes, you're talking about the unmanned solution of aviation, but then also you're going the extra mile and solving what other problems that may create, which is good. Whenever you have innovation, whenever you bring something new on, it's going to create other problems that need a solution down the road. And so that's nice that you stick with them and you try to figure out the entire end result solution. And so I know we've been talking about, most of the things we've been talking about are, you know, let's say 400 feet and under in the skies. So I know you brought up something that you wanted to start to talk about is the skies under 400 feet are not their own domain anymore. So if you want to go into a little bit more detail on what you mean by that.
Yes. Um, there was an accident in Daytona Beach International here in Florida on the December 30 of 2023. And when you read the headline, you know, helicopter collided with a drone half a mile southwest of the Daytona Beach International Airport. That is the headline. So immediately all the assumptions come into play. First, the helicopter was operating from the airport, right? Helicopters, airports, they go together, like you said before. There, the drone was doing something wrong because what is a drone doing so close to an airport, an international airport? So when I look at the headline, I arrived at all the conclusion. And a few days later, the pilot of the drone came to me for advice how to deal with the FAA. And when I start finding out about the details of the accident, I said, "Oh my God, how wrong was I?" You know. And a few days later, the NTSB published a final accident report, final, in which they said the accident was a collision with terrain slash object, they mentioned the Robinson helicopter, they mentioned the pilot of the Robinson helicopter, but there's no mention of the drone or the pilot of the drone. And there is also mentioned that the culpability of the entire event is the pilot of the other aircraft. And I look at the report, I said, this is completely wrong. So I made an analysis, and what happened is that that drone had permission. The pilot of the drone was an FAA registered pilot. The drone was an FAA registered aircraft, and they were operating under a COA, a certificate of authorization or waiver, okay, that gave them that airspace. And that COA generated a NOTAM for Daytona that says that area do not fly below 200 feet. So the pilot of the drone made a mistake by flying 30 feet above the COA, and the helicopter made a mistake by flying 20 feet under the NOTAM. 180 feet, boom, they found each other.
Wow.
But it was not an illegal drone flying illegal. No, it was a mid-air collision between two FAA registered aircraft flown by two FAA registered pilots. So I wrote a report, very stern terms. This report is wrong. And I told them what I saw. 3 days later, the report disappeared from the NTSB website. And a few days later, the new report came out, and it was exactly what I said, a mid-air collision. Defining event, mid-air collision. And now they describe the helicopter and the drone, FAA registration number, pilot of the helicopter, pilot of the drone. And then in the area dedicated to culpability, they said both pilots, lack of knowledge of procedure and so on, okay? So we can say that this was probably the first time that the NTSB investigated an accident between uncrewed and crew aviation, both of them legal. Pilot errors are normal, are common. We know that. Everybody has made them. I made them. But illegal is different. So what I want to bring the attention of everybody is that the skies below 400 feet, once we have Part 107 from the summer of 2016, there are drones operating in that arena that are legal. And helicopter pilots, agriculture pilots, sport pilots have operated in that narrow band for decades, thinking that it was their domain. It's no longer their exclusive domain. We have drones in that area, and not all of them are illegal or, bad actors. There are people doing great work inspecting infrastructure, doing delivery. So please, my call to the community, the aviation community, whom I love, I belong and love, is please, below 400 feet with Part 107, the skies might contain drones that are not necessarily bad actors. We need to behave like we're colleagues. We're all aviators.
Yep. Yeah. Well said. I mean, the skies are being shared under 400 feet now, and so you got to really be aware. Be aware of what's going on, and know if there's something in that area. So that's great advice. That's a great call to awareness, I would say, for the community. So Juan, we're getting here towards the end of the episode, so I'm going to start to wrap it up. But what I would like to do, each guest at the end of the show, I'd like to give them, their moment. If there's anything that you would like to talk about or say here at the end, that we have not been able to bring up during our conversation. Now would be the time. So you have the floor.
Thank you. I had the privilege of giving a TEDx talk a few weeks ago. It's called Catching the Fourth Wave: The Future of Drones. And I will encourage the audience to have a look at it. It's in YouTube, Catching the Fourth Wave: The Future of Drones. Because I explain what's going to happen to this industry once we have Part 108 and Part 146. And I encourage everyone involved in aviation to follow closely what the FAA is doing with Part 108, because, and the reason I always call it Part 108, Part 146 is because Part 146 is the sidekick of Part 108, and Part 146 is unique because the FAA has never regulated non-aviation technology before, and this will be the first time. Part 146 is basically everything technologically that will allow drones or uncrewed aircraft to operate in the national airspace system. So my call to arms is follow the regulations of the FAA Part 108, because when that happens, the skies are going to be crowded, and it's not going to be below 400. It's going to be above 400 too. So let's
Okay.
pay attention, because we are going to be one single industry in a few years. We might as well get used to it.
Yeah. We all need to start getting along and understanding, what all that means. So
Mhm.
great. Well said there. Thank you, Juan. We really appreciate you coming on the show. This was a great topic to be talking about with, drones and AI even. So really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next time on the next episode of Beyond the Hangar. And we'll see you then. All right. Thanks for stopping by.
Every trip begins with a choice. Spend hours navigating crowded airports, security lines, and delayed flights? Or take control of your schedule. With Triton Air, your aircraft is ready when you are. Arrive, board, and be on your way in minutes, not hours. Whether you're traveling for business or escaping for the weekend, Triton Air delivers a private aviation experience built entirely around you. Personalized service, unmatched convenience, and the freedom to fly where you want, when you want. Triton Air, private travel without compromise.